Among the many lives Pope John Paul II touched is with us today, and she was very fortunate to meet the Pope right there in person. So please welcome to Daybreak, welcome University of Santo Tomas'es Associate Professor Giovanna Fontanilla. Good morning, Associate Professor Fontanilla.
Good morning, and it's such a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
Good morning, thanks for joining us. So, very special experience that you had. It was World Youth Day in 1995, and he came to UST where you were at that very day. And tell us, take us back to that experience when you had this close encounter with Pope John Paul II.
The University of Santo Tomas is indeed privileged to host what we call the International Youth Forum. That's a gathering of about 300 people, young people from all over the world. So it's a prelude to the World Youth Day. And I was one of the organizers of that visit of the Holy Father for the International Youth Forum. So after the Mass for the International Youth Forum, there's going to be the message of the Holy Father, Pope John Paul II, to the Filipino youth, and that was at the grandstand. And so I was there at the grandstand, and when I saw the Holy Father approaching us, you know, his presence was such radiant. Seeing a holy man, a man of God, is an experience of a lifetime. And his radiance actually was that coming from an inner peace. Because if you really are Pope John Paul II, being a man of God, a holy man, would always be in conversation with God. And so his presence approaching us at the grandstand moved us to lead the people to say, JP2, we love you. And so I was the one on stage. I even had my hands moving up and say, JP2, we love you. And such joy, such excitement. I would say even the statues of the main building must be dancing with joy, you know, having the glimpse of the Holy Father. So after saying, JP2, we love you, and the crowd really was saying, JP2, we love you, I heard a voice, and it was his voice that said, JP2 loves you too. And you know, after hearing that, I looked at him because he was just at my right side, maybe this close, the way we are with one another today. And so he moved his hand and he gestured this way. So I said, oh, and I approached him with the intention of kissing his hand. But I ended up just embracing him. And with that encounter, you know, time stood still. No words could ever capture such an emotion. I don't know, when people would ask me, how do you feel? What do you think? I said, no, I mean, the moment stood still, but my journey of faith is 1,000 times blessed. So that encounter with the Holy Father for me is a blessing. It is also a gift that I have to share with people. And it's a mission for me to tell the world of God's love. I mean, telling the world of God's love was the theme song of World Youth Day 95. So for me, it is a mission sending so that in my own little way, I'll be able to share God's love to others. And that was inspired by the papal hug that I received from Pope John Paul II, who will soon become a saint.
Who will soon become a saint,
yes.
That's right, this Sunday, and it's very exciting. Now, you know, just by hearing your story alone, that his presence alone, just to see him, was maybe life-changing for many of those people who were there at that day. And most especially for you, who actually, you got that hug and that, you know, personal touch from the Pope himself. So how, were you the only one that he hugged?
That day, that was January 13, 1995, and in that occasion, I think I was the only one that was embraced by the Holy Father. But he was very kind.
Did he say something to you?
That is another question that was often asked of me after that event. I would just trust that he gave me God's blessing. So it was more of a whisper of love, a whisper of saying that be an instrument of God's love to others, be an evangelizer as well. Because after that embrace, I had to get into a recollection. I really had to pray because I was saying, Lord, such a gift. And of all these thousands of people that were there, I had that privilege.
Yes.
I had that, what I call the rarest grace of being embraced by the Holy Father. So I said, what do you want me to do? What is it that perhaps you are sending me, or maybe commissioning me, or doing some mission sending? And then after prayers and reflection, then I realized that where I am is where God wants me to be an evangelizer. And so I am now at the University of Santo Tomas, and I'm with the Office of Public Affairs. So in the work that we do, then we become really inspired by the thought that we should be able to share the message of God to the young people that we form in the university, the visitors that we also meet, so that the University of Santo Tomas becomes a home of people, of believers that really live up to that call to be evangelizers.
Yes, definitely action speaks louder than words sometimes. And I can feel that through you, even if it was back in 1995, it's so fresh and raw. That experience and how you really lived up to it, up to this day, and how it has affected you so much. Now that Pope John Paul is being canonized to be a saint, what are your thoughts on that, and the Filipino Catholic community that are amongst your peers and your organization? What is everybody feeling and thinking about all this?
First of all, I would say that it did not really come as a surprise that he will be a saint very soon, because his presence and the way that we saw him, that we interacted with him in the University of Santo Tomas is, you know, it's a presence that I would say is so special. Like just, you know, when we saw him walking up the grandstand, I did not realize that, you know, I was crying. And that cry was because of bliss, because of a joy of beholding a man that really witnesses to Christ himself. So I guess he also is our inspiration to become agents of hope, because he wrote a book, and I remember he would often say it also, be not afraid. So for us, for Filipinos and even people all over the world, then we should also be messengers of hope. And the other one is also the messenger of love. Because love is a language that perhaps doesn't even have to really be said. It is something that you experience. And when you give that love to others, then that experience becomes an encounter also with God.
And I know that I read in the background that he did say that he does love the Philippines, and I can see that because he did come back here twice to visit. And thank you so much for coming over to Daybreak and sharing your experience and your story with Pope John Paul II. And we are all looking forward to his canonization to sainthood on Sunday.
Yes, may God bless you, and may God bless all of us, and that as we remember in gratitude the visit of Pope John Paul II, who will now become a saint in 2 days, then we are always reminded of the theme song of World Youth Day 95, tell the world of his love. Tell the world, that all of us should tell the world of God's love.
I definitely remember that. Well, thank you, Professor,
My pleasure.
for coming in.
God bless you.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
And that was UST's Associate Professor Giovanna Fontanilla joining us today on Daybreak.